Columbina is of course the Archon character for the Nodkrai region, and as such, people are expecting her to bring huge meta shakeups and shifts, and to in general be very strong. So in this video, we're going to go through a Theorycrafter roundup, looking at all the pre-release numbers that people have so far, and spoiler alert, she is looking very strong indeed. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. Now, I want to start things off with a tweet from Flip, who I feature on many of my videos because he does calcs, and he does a lot of calcs, and he's consistently going back to check things over, and he does them for a lot of characters, which allows someone with the same standards to compare across multiple teams. There's some things to keep in mind with his calcs, but in general, I really like looking at them, so make sure to go follow him on Twitter and on YouTube down in the description. He is linked. But one thing he said was, I don't think people understand enough that Columbina and Nefa Sucrose gets anyone to 90 to 100k DPS. For reference, I would say 100k is like the meta line, essentially. Kaniche breaks 100k, Chaska with the right team breaks 100k, Arlecchino, some people argue that she does or doesn't break 100k. Pre-Nefa, or pre-Columbina, sorry, Flynn's, Nefer, break 100, they're in 100, 110k realm. And then most mid DPSs are not reaching 100k. They're, Navia's not quite reaching 90, Raiden's not quite reaching 90, Risley, Alhaitham, all of them basically below 90. So getting anyone to 90k or 100k or more, and we'll see that is, that is godly levels of wheelchairing. When clearing difficult content like Stygian Onslaught, I can literally feel the lag when I'm switching, and I know I'm losing valuable seconds on my clears because of my ping. But fortunately, GearUp Booster is here, and it works. It's free to download and try using my code, and the setup is extremely easy. Just open it up, choose a game, and press boost. This test was done on my own kind of sketchy internet, and as you can see, it makes quite the difference. I even did a side-by-side test, and as you can see, the GearUp boosted version is much better. So if you have high ping, or you're playing on a different server than where you're living, or your internet is generally unstable, GearUp Booster might be perfect for you. And the best part is, you can download and test it for free. GearUp is extremely secure, trusted by well-known creators, as well as professional esports players for games such as Fortnite, League of Legends, FIFA, and enjoyed by millions of Genshin Impact players around the world. Plus, it even works on console and mobile. Check out my link and code down below, and let me know in the comments what your ping reduction was. Thanks again to GearUp Booster for sponsoring the channel once again. In fact, the Nefa core is so crazy, she's being featured in the video. It's feeling like this core is so strong that I would not be surprised to see the overall level of the power level of the game in terms of enemy HP and things like that raise up a little bit, because now the floor is that anyone can reach is so much higher than it used to be, with Durin bringing up one bunch of characters, Columbina bringing up another bunch of characters. The standard of DPS feels like it has to go along with it. She's going to be a fairly universal character, and hopefully you are prepared to get her. And she will probably run alongside Nefa. I think that Columbina is the more important character than Nefa, but we'll discuss all of that and have, more of those versus videos and who to pull videos. But let's talk into what the Theorycrafters are actually saying about each character. I think we'll start with something fun. This is a Cyno calc. I don't know the person who did this, but I do know that Flip retweeted them. They did talent level 10 instead of 9. So we shouldn't compare the exact DPS numbers to other things. But regardless, Cyno reaching 110k, even though they're all talent level 10, which does matter, it is not going to be crazy, but it's probably not quite 100k if they're not talent level 10. But still, over 100k, Cyno was not reaching 90k before Columbina. He wasn't reaching 70k before Nefa. This is a pretty large upscale. Sethos with a similar upscale. And because of Nefa's shield, I would say the Sethos is actually kind of a legit team. So really good to see some old forgotten characters put up some pretty good numbers. We've got a Raiden calc. Now, I don't exactly know all of the details behind the Raiden calc, so again, don't take the numbers too seriously, but basically the idea is Raiden gives enough energy to Columbina that Columbina can run Thrilling Tales, which is still an HP weapon, which still helps Columbina's damage, but then Thrilling Tales can buff Nefa. So literally Raiden is an on-field support character. She will probably calc the best with Favonius Lance, I know, and Tenacity of the Millilith, I know. So if you want to play carry Raiden, then the Durin team is still going to be the best. But in terms of overall team DPS, it seems like Raiden is actually pretty good here. And because they didn't even use Tenacity of the Millilith, and they didn't even use Favonius Lance, which I think will be optimal, even if this isn't KQM standards, which is what most of the other calcs are going to be, this could still be around what the DPS might be, with Raiden literally just being an on-field support. So again, even if it's not 130k, which is Skirk level of DPS, I don't see it being that. That's crazy. But this is looking like a really strong team for on-field Raiden, even if it's not DPS Raiden. Okay, now an updated Nefer calc. We've got 141k. If you watch my other Columbina video, some people were calcing it at 150. Seems to have toned down a bit. 141 is the new number that I'm sort of seeing around across the board. Could potentially be even higher if people optimize with Sucrose. We'll see about that. I put this here as just a sort of point of comparison. Moika doing the new charge dash combo, so the real crazy combo. Flip has it calced at 154k. So Nefer being at 141, very nastily close to 150, 154, while being a lot easier to play. I did try and learn this. I kind of got it. I don't know if I'll optimize it. Maybe I will at some point. Maybe I won't, not sure. It might be mandatory for Moika to do the charge dash combo to stay top meta. It might be mandatory. We'll see. Whitehorse calcs getting 140k. Zhongli, I believe this calc should be a little higher because the 20-second rotation. I don't think there's any reason why it needs to be 20 seconds. I think it can be 19, the same as Goro. So if that's the case, the DPR is exactly the same. So the DPS should be exactly the same as well. Not sure about counting C6 Eluga. Looking at C2, I think, is more realistic for a C0 Whitehorse. So minus 16k DPS. So you're looking at 125, which is still above Flynn, which is still above Flynn's and Nefer. It's still close to Skirk. You know, very good. Skirk is at 130, if I didn't say that already this video. So if these calcs are correct, you know, it's putting Nefer, Whitehorse above Skirk. Flynn's at 128, right around the same as Skirk, but he's much easier to play than all the other characters on this list. So Flynn's looking like one of the top DPSs. We have a couple calcs from TGS. He's also linked down in the description. Make sure to check him out on YouTube. He calced Flynn's at 133, Nefer at 142, and then sustained Nefer at 127. I don't know if the Nefer will be good enough, will be comfy enough with just Prototype Amber as the healing. I'm not sure. I have yet to decide. We'll play it a bit more. On one hand, I don't think that Nefer right now, sustainless, is really that viable, but maybe if you're doing this much more damage, it will be. My gut says it's not enough, but we'll see. We have some more calcs at KQM standards by Vomfee. We have Navia hitting 117k. Fantastic to see. We have Varessa Wheelchair. She's doing just a bit less damage than Inefa on this team at 106k. So it's a pretty significant downgrade from our overloaded team. But if for some reason you need to play her on a Hydro on this team, then this is a totally viable option. We have none other than Hu Tao at 131k DPS. Skirk level. I feel like somehow this doesn't feel right. There's no way that this is going to fly. I don't know. I just can't. Something about it. Of course it is considering C1 Hu Tao. I don't even know if it's considering C1 Hu Tao, but regardless, this is I feel like this is just a bit high. Something about this feels like a bit wrong. Flip calced Hu Tao at 101k, but he used Ino instead of Yelan. Don't know why he used Ino. Yelan's definitely better, buffing Hu Tao more and doing way more damage than Ino, I think. But 101 to 131, I don't think Yelan is making a 31k DPS difference. But that's definitely above 100k regardless. We have a Hytham breaking 100k, absolutely massive. And then we have Moika at 144k with the Inefa wheelchair. So Columbina, Shalon, and Inefa. And this is with the charge dash combo. So just a bit worse than her best melt teams. Crazy. And then we have the Genshin Nor. Make sure to go check him out and give him a subscribe. He did a ranking of all the calcs for most of the characters, and he compared them to their old teams to see if they were going to be best in slot. Now, his calcs are at a higher standard than the others that we've shown. He uses better artifacts, 5-star weapon, still C0, but it's still very valuable information and still very arguably, you know, for a lot of people, it's going to be even more accurate than the Keqing mains free-to-play standards because, you know, talent level 10, better artifacts is relevant for most of the players. And he had Columbina calcing as a best-in-slot teammate for all of these characters. Nilou, that's very surprising to me. I guess it's just the wheelchair is so strong. Razor, crazy that Overloaded isn't better. Noelle makes sense. All the Geos make sense. Hu Tao makes sense. Xiao, very funny. Some of these are rather, a lot of these make sense. Some of them are rather surprising. I'd say I'm a bit surprised by Novelette. Some of the other calcs I've seen for Novelette have the Columbina teams coming out just a bit behind other high calcing teams like Llama and Effa and things like that, while also making him even more of a wheelchair character. Gaming is a bit surprising to me. I would have expected Melt to still be better. And then he has some of the characters that prefer Durin, which is interesting if you're considering Durin or these other characters. And then these as wants neither. For those of you up to date on, trying to keep up to date on everything, I just wanted to make a quick mention about the Mualani here. Nor claims that Mualani Albedo Durin is, considering C1 Albedo, is a better team than the Sucrose Mona stuff for Mualani. That's something I haven't heard a lot of other people say. I could see it in practice being better. I feel like a really high invested Mualani gets more buffs from the Sucrose Mona one, but I really didn't like how Mona Mualani played. So I don't know, something to consider if you're really Mualani pilled. Maybe some would say to consider Shalona, but I don't really see. You probably don't have Albedo, so it's probably not even worth really considering regardless. I think the biggest thing for Mualani players is to get her cons. Her cons, C1 and C2, and arguably her weapon are ridiculous for her, and that's also going to scale better with the Mona Sucrose stuff. So here is a DPS ranking of all the characters that use Columbina, according to Nor, with Flynn's at the top, Hu Tao very close behind. So that's another point for Hu Tao, calcing higher than Arlecchino, according to Nor, and higher than Linny, Diluc, Yai, Yoimiya. Then there's Raiden, Novelette, Razor Taser is crazy, Aido, Venti, Columbina on field. Oh, nice. Columbina on field. I wonder what team he used. Almost all of these are just Columbina and Effa Sucrose. Columbina and Effa Sucrose. Columbina and Effa Sucrose. Columbina and Effa Sucrose. Oh, that one's Yehoda. Nice. And Effa Sucrose Columbina with Aina. Was this the on field one? I was going to command search for Columbina, and then I realized that all of the teams have Columbina. Where's the on field column? Child, Gaming. What is the Gaming team? Gaming and Effa Bennett Columbina. She is going to warp the meta the same way that Moika did, but as an off-fielder, so it'll feel a little bit better, in my opinion. Okay, here, the on-field, yeah, I know. Ineffa, Sucrose, Columbina. I feel like everything below Columbina is worthless, because why not just play on-field Columbina, you know, Ayato. So yeah, I think this is pretty interesting. Hopefully you guys found it interesting. Obviously, lots of changes could still happen, but I do think this information is valuable, because if you're wanting to play an on-field or that you like, for example, Hu Tao, Diluc, Linny, that if you're wanting, you know, them to be on field and have the team doing the most damage, yeah, Ineffa and Columbina are going to be carrying the team, but it's something you might want to consider. And because, yeah, Nor does calc at a higher standard, you know, it's not just low investment wheelchair, it still keeps up. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you're going to go for Columbina, if you're going to go for Ineffa. I'm really excited for the Navia stuff. 117k, that makes Navia actually a respectable character. Go Navia, and Al Haytham over 100k is good to see. Hu Tao, I'm very impressed by Hu Tao. That's wild. So I'm really excited for these characters. Let me know your thoughts. Take care. Bye for now.